Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We're here today with Linda Caron, the VP of Exploration at Margaux Resources, the Canadian gold explorer. Now today you're going to take us through your new PowerPoint with your new story. So Linda, why don't we start from page 4 of your current PowerPoint and talk us through some of the highlights there in terms of the company and what it's going to be doing this year.
Sure. So Margaux has 2 important gold assets in BC. We've got the Sheep Creek district in southern BC, and that's one we acquired in 2017, and we've been working on that for the past 2 years. And then just recently we signed a deal with Margaux Resources for the Cassie Project. That's up in northern BC, and it's a really exciting project. It's had a lot of work done on it. There's been some historic mining. The historic mining was all focused on high-grade veins, but what really excites us about the project is the bulk tonnage potential. So there's a historic resource of 1 million ounces gold that's near surface, open pittable, with potential to expand that. So what we plan to do this year is to go in and drill some holes for ourselves, do some QA/QC work, make that resource current. So what we think we can do is to take Margaux from nothing on the books to 1 million ounces by the end of this year.
That's great. I think investors always like to see that magical 1 million ounce threshold. That's fantastic. And then follow up presumably as quickly as possible with a second resource.
Right, so that particular zone remains open. We can keep drilling. We expect that it will continue, so we can add to it there. But there are several other quality targets on the property for low-grade bulk tonnage mineralization. So we'll be drilling those as well and look to be putting out a second resource for next year.
Okay, and Linda, I can't help but notice this point about reprocessing some historical tailings here. I mean, what's that look like?
So the tailings are from the high-grade vein mining. And they didn't get 100% gold recovery when they were processing that ore. So again, these aren't our numbers, but the previous company, Margaux Resources, has did a drill program last year of the tailings and analyzed it, and then has done some preliminary metallurgical work. And it looks like there's about 600,000 tons of tailings, and the grade is about 1 gram to the ton.
Right, not yet confirmed. You need to do some work on that.
Yep.
Okay, but I guess
it's very easy to recover that gold by a gravity process.
Right.
So Nelson concentrators, you just run it through. It's already sort of sand-sized particles. Run it through. You make a gold concentrate, and potential to make a bunch of money.
Okay, so I guess with my investor hat on, I can run some basic numbers there and get a sense of what that potential cash flow could be to the organization. I guess there's some costs associated with that, so we need to net that off. And you're gonna be looking at the economics of that this year?
That's right. Yep. We want to do some more metallurgical work. There's potential to get better gold recovery by adding some other steps in. We need to look at the optimization of that, whether it's worth doing that or whether you go for quick and easy and take what you can get. Right. But the permits are all in place to do this. So once we figure out what the best path forward is, it should be very quick to do.
Interesting. Okay, well, thanks for that summary of what you're going to be getting up to this year. So let's, if we can, get onto page 5. I'm looking at the page which talks about investment strategy. I can't help but notice the company seems to have changed its focus this year. You seem to have decided what you're going to be, which makes it obviously quite interesting for me as an investor. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why you've done that?
Sure. So Margaux actually started out in the mineral exploration business with a tungsten. Tungsten prices were up and it looked like they would stay there. So they acquired a project for tungsten. Tungsten didn't do what we thought it would, but that asset also had a historic lead zinc mine and potential for more. There was a resource a historical resource on that. So we went into lead zinc exploration. We didn't find what we wanted to see in terms of the lead zinc, but it got us in the right neighborhood. So the property next door was the Sheep Creek property. It had not been on the market, it wasn't available. And then through a series of circumstances, it became available and we were in the right neighborhood, so that opportunity came to us. And that's how we got into gold. Since then, we've made that our focus. It's what I'm good at, it's what my experience is, and it's what the market likes.
Okay, so it sounds like by dint of fortune, you've ended up in an area where you guys are more comfortable, and for whatever reason, market conditions have driven you there. But it's a brave decision to make, but I guess an important one.
To be, I don't know, to back up a little bit, when I joined Margaux, it was because the projects they had were ones that were on my radar as gold projects, and they weren't exploring the gold potential of them.
Okay. So let's get into page 5 then here. So we're talking about goals here. You says you want to be a producer of orogenic gold. Why?
Orogenic gold deposits are big deposits. Right. They occur in clusters. You know, they're part of a regional events, and they account for a lot of global gold. They're higher grade than other types of deposits. They're more predictable in many ways than other types of deposits. We understand the model, and they're underexplored in British Columbia.
Right, okay. And are both projects orogenic?
Yes.
Right, okay. And then you're talking about low grade with some high grade upside. I mean, how does that work?
You know, when you're trying to define a resource, it's hard to do that with a high grade vein. It's slow to do it with a high grade vein. You know, each drill hole only gets you a few meters. So building tons is slow. Building ounces is slow. With a bulk tonnage situation, you know, we're looking at a zone that's 100 meters or more. So you're getting a lot more bang for your buck with every drill hole. So right. That's what we like to see. The high grade is interesting. It can up the grade. You know, if we find individual veins, that'll help with overall grade. But the way to get to 1 million ounces quickly is to focus on the bulk tonnage. So our short-term goal is to get to that 1 million ounce mark by the end of this year. And we'll do that by going to this area that's had considerable previous drilling. It has a historic resource, and we'll validate that resource.
And you said the cost of doing
that should be quick and easy to do.
And the cost of doing that and time?
About $300,000 Canadian.
300,000 Canadian, okay. And you'll get that done by what, end of this year?
End of the year.
Okay, yeah. Interesting, okay.
And, you know, I think that we need to do some work in raising the profile of the company. People don't know who we are. They don't, you know, the message has been maybe a little mixed on what we've been doing in the past. We want to clarify that for people, let them know that we're a gold company. This is what we're doing.
Okay.
Our longer term goals are to acquire probably 1 or 2, 3 more assets, and to break that 3 to 5 million ounce barrier over the next 3 to 5 years.
So, and those, I guess you'll follow a sort of similar profile, is that what you're saying? So this kind of bulk tonnage with high grade upside.
We have a sort of an asset targeting criteria, what we want to see. So we want to stay in BC. We know BC. Obviously, you know, if an amazing opportunity came up in another great jurisdiction, we would look at it. But for the focus is really BC. The focus is orogenic gold. We believe that's a good deposit model. We believe it aligns well with our skill set. We like the bulk tonnage model with high grade upsize. If there's near surface opportunities or tailings where we can get some quick cash flow, that's a bonus.
And just on that, while I ask, these orogenic bulk, you know, this bulk volume approach to mining, does that tend to kind of keep the eventual, when I assume there are companies that are orogenic gold focused which have got into production. Are there many examples of this?
Many. Yeah. Okay. Well, globally, I mean, this is this is a large thing. So the largest open pit deposit in the world is
Right.
Morantau, and that's an orogenic gold deposit.
Right. And do they tend to be cheaper to process? Is the ASIC number, bottom quartile, for instance? I mean, where is it going to sit in terms of
I think
ability
they
to
tend
create?
to be they're the plums. They're what you're looking for.
Right.
The grades are better. The metallurgy tends to be good, so recovery is very good.
Right.
Typically, you're getting a component of the gold out in the gravity circuit, so you're getting very quick cash flow.
Right. So how does that work? You process quickly and then you reprocess again for better extraction.
Yeah, all the rock gets ground, and then it runs through a circuit. And the first thing you do is you take out the heavier metals or the heavier components by gravity. And so gold, some of it, if it's free gold, it's just like a placer gold operation. Those gold particles will settle out, and then you can sell those directly to a smelter.
Right. Okay. So I just need
instead of going through the whole flotation process, make a concentrate, sell the concentrate, that will, then the gold will be recovered from that. So it's just a way to get quicker return on money from your.
So that seems to be a recurring theme here in terms of reprocessing tailings and getting to quicker cash flow. So you're very much concentrated on that as part of your business plan. Okay, interesting. Okay, so sorry, what are the other targeting criteria?
One that I think that we're particularly good at is going through reams of old data and pulling out the gems. So we love data-rich projects. We like applying our knowledge, our skill set to that data, bringing it into modern format and finding what other people have overlooked for one reason or the other. Some of that is not, it's changing knowledge over years, or it's changing metal prices make things interesting now that weren't interesting when the work was done.
Right. And do many of those exist, Linda? I mean, are there a lot of targets that have big data fields? I mean, are they easy to find?
No,
right.
They're not easy to find. And that's why we're really excited by both Sheep Creek and Cassie are, because those both fit this asset criteria that we have.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and then to find them and, at an affordable price. And, there are projects that have lots of data and, frankly, they're dogs, right? Like nobody wants them. So to find one that has lots of data and has good potential and room to grow, those are harder to find.
Okay. And then they come with all the relevant permits in place, or is that something you've got? I know that there's different licenses and permits you need, but I assume you've got the ones you need for this stage.
That's correct, we do. Not all projects have that level of permit. And obviously, if we're going to start a mine, a big open pit mine, that is not permitted yet, but all the exploration stage is permitted.
Right, okay, interesting. Okay, so let's go to page 6, where I know you have covered a lot of this already, but I think there's a few points in here perhaps worth going over again with regards to the two projects.
Just looking at slide 6 here, and again, just recapping that our two projects are Sheep Creek and Cassie. They're both orogenic, they're both in BC. And what's significant is that they're analogous in terms of the style of mineralization, the age, the type, to the mineralization that Barkerville Gold Mines is exploring for and producing in the Cassie or in the Caribou district in
That's Barkerville Gold, the company. Yes. Okay, so what are their market cap? 160 million, something like that.
Okay. And I'm not saying that we're an analogous company to them. What I'm saying is that the deposits are the same style.
Right, okay. But so yours are both former producing assets, but haven't produced for a while.
Yeah, so the Cassie project has both bulk tonnage and high-grade veins. The past production was from the high-grade veins, about 350,000 ounces. And that was, I think, 79 to 95, somewhere in there is when they were doing that mining. And then they did a lot of exploration. The project is really two different properties. They're adjoining, and it was historically not owned by the same company. So it's subsequently been put together into one package. And that's one of the things that makes makes it especially interesting. The other thing we've touched on already is the potential gold recovery fairly quickly from the historical tailings. So about 600,000 tons at about a gram to the ton gold there that we should be able to recover fairly quickly.
So Linda, let's look at page 7. We're always interested in understanding about the management team, because I think the quality of the management team, their experience and ability to deliver projects is paramount. So why don't you tell us about yourself initially, and then if you can, some of the other players on the team.
Sure. So starting with me, I'm a geological engineer with a specialty in mineral exploration. I live in BC, southern BC. Most of my career has been gold focused, over 30 years experience working in industry for majors, juniors as a consultant, kind of all aspects of the business. And most recently, I was running a project for Kinross in southern BC, a gold project, and Margaux approached me to come on as their VPX, and so I handed off that project to somebody else and came on with Margaux.
Right, and so how long have you been working in the BC area?
Well, pretty much my whole career. You know, I raised a family and was working as a field geologist at the same time, and so trying to stay close to home through those years. And then as the kids got older and left, I went farther afield. So, you know, I've worked in other places, but primarily in the Cordillera, so the western part of North America, right through Mexico, the US, BC, and the Yukon. That's been really my focus.
Right. Okay. And what's your specific role in Margaux? What are you focused on? What are you tasked with doing?
I guess overall, my focus is to help us achieve that goal of being a bulk tonnage gold producer. That's the bottom line. Day to day, every day looks different. So I'm technically quite strong, and I love to be part of the technical team. So I like not to just be on a management side. I like to be day to day with our geologists, going through data and just helping refine some of the targets, I guess, keeping everybody on track and focused. But I also work with our financing team, marketing guys. I work with the legal team, you know, just on agreements and that kind of thing. Just sort of overseeing many aspects, operational aspects of the company.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, let's talk about some of the people you work with. I guess we should kick off with the CEO, Tyler. What's his involvement? And
Tyler's a great guy. He's very hands-on, day to day. He's a young, very successful businessman, really quite passionate about social responsibility. So moved his family up to our project area in southern BC. He's very involved in the community, very involved in making partnerships with environmental groups, with community groups, working with the government on, you know, permitting issues or what might arise. He's very much a relationship driven person.
right. And is that very important? Is that fundamental to the business?
Oh, absolutely.
If he wasn't doing that, what would happen?
If the community doesn't want us to develop a mine, we wouldn't be doing it. The social license is very, very important.
Right. Okay. And that, I guess not limited to BC
No.
either. But okay, so that's his focus. And then you've got two pretty big names on here. I'm looking at Steve Letwin, the IAMGOLD CEO.
Steve is the president and CEO of IAMGOLD.
Yeah.
And he's a major shareholder in the company. He's very active in the company, so we speak with him at least on a weekly basis. I talk to him on a weekly basis.
Right. Okay.
And he's giving us access to contacts that we as a junior company wouldn't have without his involvement.
Okay, that's interesting. Obviously, he's very well known, very successful player in the space, but he still finds time for you guys. Okay, And what about Chris
And very
Stewart? I
good
mean,
advice,
that's
right? Like he's seen this, and so he helps us think bigger than a junior exploration company.
yeah. I mean, his track record in creating shareholder value is almost second to none here, I think. What about Chris Stewart? I mean, that's another big hitter.
Absolutely. Really fortunate to have Chris involved. Chris is a mining engineer, and so he brings technical expertise at a very high level. He's president and CEO or COO for McEwen Mining, which is an $800 million market cap. But he's really what he's known as, I think, is a turnaround specialist. So he's been involved with Kirkland Lake and Lakeshore Gold, Liberty Mines. He's a real problem solver, optimization guy.
And was he part of the decision making for you guys to kind of refocus on Orogenic Gold? Was that a team effort, or was he part of that discussion?
Absolutely, he was part of that discussion. Yes, I would say that it was a group decision, but we're all in agreement.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's amazing to have two people of that caliber on a company with your market cap. It suggests they see great things. Okay, and we're on to. I just want to talk about. Obviously, there's. I just want to talk about Jim Letwin and Ryan. Can you tell us a bit about their involvement?
Sure. Okay, I'll start with Jim. Jim is Steve's brother. Jim is a very successful businessman. He's MBA. He's recently sold his company, and he really brings commercial savvy, I guess, to the team,
Right.
And strong leadership skills.
Okay. And what about Ryan? I guess he's business development. That means a lot of things. So what's he actually do?
Raises money. Ryan
Raising
is
money.
our money
Okay.
raising guy,
Right.
and he has an interesting background because he started out hands-on with a contracting company. He started a company, was president of it, and for many years worked as a contractor to the mining and forestry industry. So he understands the business from the ground up. And I think about 10 or 11 years ago, he started with IAMGOLD in a role of financing. And so
Okay.
he comes with Steve and has been very successful raising money for IAMGOLD, and now is in that role with us as well as with IAMGOLD. So we're often able to kind of tag team on the financing trips. He's going with IAMGOLD and getting introduced to bigger players than we would get introduced to.
Okay, that's kind of interesting. So this is Steve Letwin relationships are abound here. Okay. Okay, well that's kind of interesting. So I guess you're getting the benefit of access to large players and their connections, despite being relatively small junior explorer. That's got to help. And as you say, Steve trying to help you look and aim a little bit higher can't be a bad thing either.
Yeah, I think it really sets us apart from many junior companies.
Okay. So you're about to tell us about a bit more detail about the two projects, but before you do that, give me a bit more detail on the Orogenic Gold. I think it's important for people to understand what it is, why you're focused on it, why a lot of companies like being in this particular type of rock.
Sure. So orogenic just means formed during mountain building. Orogeny is mountain building. So this is related to plate tectonics, when the continents are forming and these big land masses are smashing into one another. What happens is you've got great big fault zones, and those faults are tapping down into the depths of the earth, so they're allowing the fluids to come up. And because there's such big events, these faults, they're not just kilometers long, they're hundreds and hundreds of kilometers long. So you get big districts where the same style of mineralization occurs. So if you're in a district, you don't expect just one of these deposits. If you find one of these projects, you're very likely to find more, because they do tend to occur in districts because of this large structural control. Right. And globally, they're very significant contributors to gold. So about 30% of global gold comes from this style of deposit. And in Canada, it's over 80% has come from orogenic gold deposits.
Okay.
The Abitibi region is one of the best known, and that's over 180 million ounces of gold has been produced from the Abitibi. So we're in the same setting, but much younger. And this is, you know, geologists talk in ages of rocks, and the Abitibi is like 2.7 billion years old. BC much younger. So the orogeny that's happening here, the continents that's building, is we're thrusting land onto the west coast of North America. So this is the Cordilleran orogeny, and it happens all the way up the coast, all the way, you know, South America, Mexico, through BC, up into the Yukon, Alaska. So MDRU, UBC, Geoscience BC did a study a few years ago called the BC Orogenic Gold study or something like that. And it was looking at this collision zone between the land that's coming in from the west and the coast of North America, the ancestral coast of North America. And they identified that all these deposits, so Sheep Creek in the south, Barkerville in the middle of the province, and Cassie up in the northern part of the province, are all orogenic deposits that are related to this this accretion event. And that was kind of a new revelation. So while people would have said, yeah, that has characteristics of an orogenic gold deposit, nobody really put the whole picture together. And so now we understand that, and it's becoming much more widely known, I guess. We were very fortunate to get in early in the game. So, you know, in BC, there are these 3 districts along this particular suture zone, and we've tied up 2 of them now.
Right, okay. And just going back to something you said earlier, with regards to the age, you're talking about this being a younger formation. Is that, does that make it better, or is it just interesting?
Yeah, it makes it different.
Right.
It's, in some ways there are advantages. You know, when you have a 2.5 billion year old rock, it's gone through a lot more things in its lifetime, so it's been folded and refolded and broken up by other events. Ours are younger, so not as much has happened to them.
And I guess a little bit more predictive.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just trying to work out what the angle was for, in terms of cost.
I'm not sure there is an angle. It's different.
But just you understand what you've got,
I
guess. So the orogenic is vast. If it accounts for 80% of gold in Canada, I guess it also says that you're not coming up with a new process. It's a well understood process in terms of mining, so it shouldn't throw up any problems, one would hope.
Yep, agreed. And there are deposits that can produce both bulk tonnage, low grade, and high grade veins. Now, historically, people were looking at the high grade veins. You know, 100 years ago, that's what was being mined. 50 years ago, that's what was being mined. But as gold price has changed and as mining technology has changed, these bulk tonnage targets are becoming much more attractive and actually overtaking the high grade veins probably as a more attractive target. So people are going back into the same districts now and re-looking at them from the bulk tonnage point.
So again, it's kind of interesting. So there's a shift there, because I think the sort of slightly perceived sexier projects are the high grade projects, but then you're spending a lot of time chasing those veins, chasing those grades, whereas you're saying we know what we've got, we know where it is, we're going volume, we'll process it, it's step and repeat in a way. So it's a different model.
That's right.
Okay. Well, why don't you talk, we're going to get into the projects in a bit more detail. We're going to start with Sheep Creek. I'm going to page 9 now, which you quite handily laid out what we've acquired and what we have today. So why don't you tell us about that?
We acquired the Sheep Creek project in 2017. Mm-hmm. It's a project that has past production from about the 1900 to 1951, something like that, and produced almost 800,000 ounces of gold at nice grades. I think the average is just under 14.5 grams to the ton gold. So those were individual veins that they were following, chasing. Not a lot of drilling. You know, in the olden days, they would get on a vein and they would just start mining it until they lost it. And then they would drift over to try to find it again or find another one. And so not much exploration being done through the process.
Yeah.
So high-grade veins, good continuity of veins. Some of them are almost a kilometer in length, mined to several hundred meters down dip. And the district was consolidated for the first time ever by us. And so that, you know, is a huge advantage, because when you're on one of these structures, if you're following it and then all of a sudden you come to your claim boundary, you know, you're kind of hooped. So this way we've got the whole thing, and we got reams and reams and reams of historical data, and it was all, you know, stacks of maps and old weathered paper copies of things, and nothing in any kind of digital format. That's what we got. Yeah. And then what we have today, we took that data and we scanned and we digitized, and we put all the underground workings into a three-dimensional model with the gold zones. So one of the targets that we zeroed in on was the Bayonne. It's one of the veins at Sheep Creek, and we drilled there in 2017 and 2018. And what was significant is that we have found, for the first time, we found this low-grade bulk tonnage mineralization in the Sheep Creek. We also found a nice new shoot on, you know, a high-grade shoot within one of the veins, and that's still open, and it's producing. Every hole we drilled this year hit the vein, and good results. So that's still a great target. The process of Sheep Creek has been more valuable to us than just the development of Sheep Creek itself, because it's really helped us grow as a company.
I guess this is the thing which has helped you understand the type of business you want to be, because I say, you know, I'm getting a sense that you've solidified your thinking about what you want to be, and how to do that. Like, so you think Sheep Creek has helped you do that. So just again, so I understand this a bit. So you talk about a couple of $1 million that's been spent on Sheep Creek, consolidating data by the sounds of it, drilling some more holes, doing the LiDAR, and understanding what it looked or looks like today. I mean, what are you doing for 2019? I think you're talking about targeting some drill holes in 19. I mean,
yeah, we have drill holes targeted. We have permits in place. We have more targets than probably will have funding to drill this year. So, you know, we've prioritized them, and it'll kind of depend on how much money we raise, how much gets done, but certainly something. We'll go back to Bayonne for sure, and I hope that we'll be able to drill some of the other targets.
And what's that going to do? What's that going to do for you? If you did have the money to drill those holes out, what would you be looking to try and achieve? Are you looking to get to a resource, or just further understanding of what you've got?
I think we're a ways away from a resource at Sheep Creek. So yeah, just trying to get, you know, the first few holes into some new targets and see what they look like.
Okay. Great. And then if I look at page 10, I think you can use this again, just help me understand this balance between the low grade and the high grade.
Sure. As I said, you know, historically Sheep Creek was considered a high-grade vein camp, and nobody had explored it for bulk tonnage mineralization, and probably that's because, you know, mining stopped in the 50s, and that just wasn't an attractive mineralization model at the time. So we went in to look, you know, where might there be zones of bulk tonnage mineralization. 2018, we drilled at Bayonne to test an area that we thought had bulk tonnage potential, and we did hit good grades and good widths. So 12 meters of almost 3 grams of gold at the east end of the Bayonne system. And so we drilled 3 holes into that area. They all hit, and that zone comes right to surface, and it's open for more exploration.
So and how much land are you sitting on with Sheep Creek?
It's almost 4,000 hectares.
Right, so there's a lot of exploration to be done.
Lot of exploration, yes.
Okay, so Linda, if I'm listening to what you're saying with regards to Sheep Creek. Obviously, you've done a lot of work. There's a lot of work to come. But at what point do investors get some kind of return from this? How do you see the future of Sheep Creek looking, and what sort of time frame are you looking at?
Yeah, so I think we've done all our homework, if you will. We now have put this together, and I understand that for the investor, that may be a slow and unrewarding step. It's a very critical step for success on the ground. So we've completed that now, and now we're at the step where we're testing our targets. And we will continue to test those targets in a priority order. And at some point in the near future, I hope we'll have zeroed in on those best targets that have the best potential to get us to a resource quickly.
Okay, so I guess we'll wait to sort of see what you come up with after the 2019 drill program. Okay, can we talk about Cassie Gold again? I think you've labelled it what we've acquired and what we want to do here. So let's talk us through what you bought, because there's obviously a recent acquisition.
Okay, so we have a letter of intent signed, and the definitive agreement is going back and forth between the lawyers. So all the key points have been agreed upon, and we're just finalizing language. It's an all-share deal, okay, which is attractive. So Cassie, a past producing mine, 350,000 ounces of gold from high-grade veins, and lots of drilling has been done on the veins, but also on this bulk tonnage target, which is called Taurus. So there's a historic resource of ounces. So I think it's 32 million tons at about 1 gram to the ton. It's near surface, potentially open pittable. There is a permitted mill. It's not sized for the bulk tonnage situation. It was what was used to mine the high-grade veins, so that's still there, and it's still permitted. There's a tailings pond that's the waste that's gone through that mill, and there's gold in those tailings. We think that we can reprocess them and recover that gold and get some quick cash flow. Again, data rich, and the data was in much better shape than what we got at Sheep Creek. So some great people have worked on this project in the past. Good database of drill holes, soil samples, all the early stuff has been done. The LiDAR survey has flown, there's been airborne geophysics flow, and the soil sampling has been done. So much more advanced than Sheep Creek was.
So just if I may, on the mill, which is permitted, obviously it's for processing high grade, not bulk. Have you guys thought about what you're going to do with that? Are you going to get it back in production, or are you going to change it so that it can process?
What we know of the high-grade veins so far, there is a small defined resource on the high-grade veins. I don't think there's going to be a lot of money to be made doing the development to go after that and putting it through that mill. I'd like to just keep it on the books and focus on the low-grade opportunity
right.
for now.
I guess you work out at some point if there's what the economics could be around that. Okay, so tell us about what you're going to do with what you've acquired.
I think what we want to do is really de-risk exploration, and compared to Sheep Creek, where our shareholders have seen it take a long time for us to go from getting the data to generating targets. I think you're not going to see that here. The data is in such a state that with a little bit of our knowledge applied to it, I think that we can advance this quickly. And so I think what we want to do this year is to make the resource compliant. So we hope to have 1 million ounces of gold on the books by the end of this year. We would like to do more work with those tailings. Yeah. So validate it for ourselves, do some more metallurgical work, and look at what the optimized process would be for recovering the gold in the tailings.
Yeah, I guess those seem to me to have some real value for shareholders in terms of the immediacy of getting to a resource, maybe getting some additional quick cash flow from the tailings. and I guess continue drilling out.
Yeah, and there are some other very high quality targets for bulk tonnage mineralization on this. It's a very large project, 60,000 hectares. So, the work has been quite focused along a central corridor. So within that corridor, there's some good targets, but I think outside of it as well, there are some targets that will need exploration. So I think we can identify other zones that could grow quite quickly.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So that's like great. You must be very pleased with that acquisition then.
Very pleased. Yeah.
And I don't suppose you can tell me if there's more on the horizon or not. Are you looking?
I can't tell you.
Okay.
We are looking at acquisitions and we have a strategy.
Always looking. Okay. I won't push you. I think we can skip page 12. I think you've covered most of those points on there. I noticed there's a page 13, but we've got a bit of a diagram here which gives us a sort of sense of the scale of the Cassie Project. And
yeah, so if you look at that scale bar, that's 10 kilometers. So this is about 20 kilometers across by 30-40 kilometers north to south. So big land package, and most of the exploration has been focused on this 15-kilometer corridor of veining along the west side.
I'm guessing from this also that there's you definitely got enough water. What's the energy and infrastructure like?
So Highway 37, which is the Stewart Cassie Highway, goes right through the project. It splits it right in half. So the Taurus is the area to the north of the highway, and Table Mountain is to the south. And there's grid power along that. So very good infrastructure for northern BC. This is not very steep, rugged mountains. It's mountainous, but it's not coastal mountains.
Right. Okay. So
good infrastructure, good topography.
And perfect for bulk tonnage operations when you get there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and the bulk tonnage is down in the valley, so easy and right next to the highway.
Right.
It's almost perfect.
Okay. And then page 14, we're looking at the high-grade deposits at Table Mountain. Again, sort of similar topography.
Yeah, so the veins are in the southern part of the property. They're on, what's called Table Mountain, and the red are the veins that were mined, and then in green shows you the traces of drill holes. So a lot of drilling done in those mined areas, and that was, definition drilling before they went in to do mining. But if you look, there's not a lot of drilling in other areas, so some good targets there as well.
Tell us a bit about the commercial goals of the company. I know you've got page 15. You talk about that one. This has got to be what interests investors most. We need to understand the commerciality of the business. I think obviously with Steve and Chris on board, and Tyler as well, the business seems more commercial than it has been to date. What is the focus for this coming year?
The main thing we want to do is define that Taurus resource, put out a maiden resource estimate by the end of this year, 1 million ounces. Okay. That's what we're targeting. We're looking at other acquisitions in BC, Orogenic Gold, hope to have some news on that coming up. Raising money, just completed a $500,000 raise. We'll be raising further money this spring for the 2019 program.
Right.
The tailings is a priority for us in 2019, so looking at optimizing that process and getting rolling on that. To do a better job of communicating with our shareholders, raising our corporate profile, and getting, seeing an increase in our share price. We believe we're undervalued. We think that the Cassie acquisition is really going to help see a raise in that share price, and we'll be able to maintain that.
Okay. I mean, everyone says they're undervalued, and especially after last year. It would be great to see some peer analysis at some point from you.
Yeah, that is something that we're working on. We know we can do better than we have been doing. We can do a better job of communicating to our shareholders what we will be doing, what they can expect to come out in the future, how that's going to lead to creating shareholder value. We think through that will lead to more share activity, so in terms of liquidity and volume. and we're making sure that we optimize our spending. So I think the shareholders will see better returns than they have in the past. Just to summarize it, our focus on gold, on orogenic gold and bulk tonnage gold, will allow shareholders to see how we are creating real incremental value for them.
Just on page 16, Linda, I'm looking at something we're talking about, the investment rationale. I guess this is you talking to us investors and saying this is what you should be thinking about when you think of Margaux Resources. So if you don't mind just kind of running us through that.
We are experts in orogenic gold in BC. BC is a safe and stable jurisdiction. Our projects are low risk because of the jurisdiction, because of the existing infrastructure, because we've gone through the data, we've de-risked it by analyzing existing data. Margaux has a clear growth plan through acquisition, but also through exploration on our projects. We have low-grade gold in large volumes on all our properties, and then an added bonus of the high-grade veins. So we have the potential to become, in geologically the next Barkerville area or Malarctic or some of the deposits that people may know of. We're aiming for early cash flow, and that will be through tailings reprocessing. We're targeting a 3 to 5 million ounce gold resource within 5 years through exploration and acquisition. And we will be updating the historic gold resource on Cassiar. That's a 1 million ounce resource. We will do that this year. So we'll have a maiden resource by year end this year and a second resource out by year end next year. We'll be initiating environmental baseline studies in 2020 and targeting a PEA in 2021 for Cassiar.
Thanks for running through that. It'd be great to catch up with you and go through in a bit more detail the plans for 2019. And I guess you'll be able to update us on your fundraise as well. And as you say, any potential targets that you may or may not have closed by then.
I look forward to it.
Okay, thanks very much, Linda. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching our video. We do aim to give you informed and intelligent information with which to make your investment decisions. So if you liked what you just saw, please give us a thumbs up. And if you want to see more insightful, in-depth, honest and unbiased interviews, then please click the subscribe button. So thanks again for watching, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.